Welcome back to another Sister Scoop where we will be giving you this week's Marvel news in under or around 10 minutes. And we're going to kick it off with a big one. Actually, 2 out of 3 of our topics this week are X-Men related. That should not be surprising with the fact that X-Men 97 is pretty much right around the corner. But the first one is that Lindsay Lohan is rumored to be playing a pretty interesting role, and it does seem that most people are putting her in the X-Men direction, which would make sense. But I'm excited. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I love the idea of Lindsay joining the MCU. You know, the idea of someone who has had such a, kind of troubled past getting a second chance at a franchise like this is great. If you think about it, the Mac Daddy himself, Robert Downey Jr., was someone who they took a chance on, and he just won his first Oscar this weekend. So, from the father of the MCU in terms of the first character, I love the idea of, rehabilitating. She's already rehabilitated, but, giving these artists another chance. And to your point, Tigra is the name that pops up most when you look at Lindsay joining the MCU. And I think that is such an interesting and fun character for her. She's a West Coast Avenger, so that could be really, really fun. And I'm excited. I say give it to Lindsay. Let's find her a great role and bring her right on in.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, we grew up with her. Parent Trap, all like what was that? Well, Mean Girls, of course, but what else was she in on Disney Channel that I'm thinking
Um,
of?
well, I don't know if you're thinking of this from Disney Channel, but Freaky Friday.
Maybe that's what I know. There's something big that I'm trying to remember her from, and it could be that. Regardless, we grew up with her, obviously. We also lived through the slight downfall and the uprising of her. So we're really happy to see her, coming back. I don't know what she's acted in recently. So I'm not really up to date on that. But you mentioned one name. I've actually seen a couple others out there which are a little bit more prominent in the role of the X-Men. One being Jean Grey,
Ooh,
which has been a big one I've been seeing, and the other one being Mystique.
I love Lindsay. I just want to say that before I'm going to say what I say next. I don't know that I am willing to put her in a role that's as prominent as Jean Grey or Mystique. If you think about the actresses that have played these characters, obviously people don't love Sophie Turner's movie, but you can't argue that Sophie Turner's a bad actress. The material they gave her, I haven't seen the film, but my understanding is she didn't have a lot to work with. Even the woman who played Jean Grey in the, early 2000s version. I can't remember her name, but she's fantastic. Think about Jennifer Lawrence playing Mystique in the new version, Rebecca Romaine playing her in the old version. These are women who really carried the role, and I just don't know if this is Lindsay's first major role back that I'm ready for her to take that as the role. I'd kind of rather have her in a smaller, fun role than something quite so prominent.
Oh, for sure. And that's kind of why I said I remember her acting growing up, but I don't really know what she's been in recently enough to be able to make that decision either. So I don't know. Just keep them in mind, keep them out there. They're floating around. We'll see. But moving on to our next piece of news, also X Men related. This one actually is directly related to the X Men 97 show. And I hope I don't butcher how to say the name. It's not a hard name, but there are definitely different ways to say it. But the creator, Bo DeMaio, I'm going to go with, has been fired by Marvel. It's kind of wonky because there's been no reason given, whether from Marvel or from his team. It is silent. He's gone silent on social media. All we pretty much know is that he's been fired from the project. He has worked on Moon Knight and the upcoming Blade, and he also had already completed his part of writing for X-Men 97 season 2. So he's been part of things. It's kind of wonky. I think a lot of people are speculating some not so good things might have taken place since there hasn't been word on why he's been let go, but pretty big considering the series premieres in about a week.
Yeah, and what's craziest about this too is we're recording this on March 12th, just so you guys have a little bit of context. So it literally just broke the news a couple of hours ago. And on March 13th is the big premiere. So they literally fired
Right.
him a day before not the premiere on Disney Plus, but the big, red carpet or whatever color carpet they're going to do, because sometimes they change that up. And that's crazy. Like, we're about to hit, obviously, they've been doing a lot of press for it, a lot of preparation, trying to get people excited. But this last week is the press go moment. And you
Right.
just, got rid of one of your creators, which is kind of insane.
It's definitely crazy. I mean, even people have been pointing out, I mean, he was posting about the show nonstop, getting ready to go to the premiere. So it definitely is weird. And I think that's why people are speculating there's been some not great things coming out, or Marvel found something out, or I don't know. I think people are definitely speculating on the negative end, because I mean, it's hard not to when we have zero news about what happened. And like I said, even his team is not commenting on it. And I think that also says a lot in its own way. So it is kind of sad. Seemed like he was pretty passionate about the X-Men 97 job. Like I said, he'd already written part of season 2. He had been talking about some ideas for season 3. So he seemed pretty passionate, but I don't know. I don't know. That's on that one. I guess it's going to just play out how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I'll definitely be curious to see what details do come out in the next, days, weeks, months, if any.
Oh, yeah, me too. It'll be interesting. I'm assuming we will eventually get some sort of something. It seems weird to completely just let him go, but we will see. And then moving into our final news topic, which has kind of been a long piece of news for the past few weeks, actually. But time to finally hit it, as I think maybe there's an agreement starting to come together. And it's the future of Spider Man 4. That is Tom Holland's Spider Man 4. And if you've been on any social media, you're kind of aware that Sony and Marvel have been going back and forth quite a bit on whether making it a more ground level movie or a multiversal movie would be better. I think we have our feelings that we've spread on our podcast quite a bit. But T, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best. We have been pretty clear about the direction that we want the character to go. I mean, we just recently put out our Homecoming replay, which I think we even reinforced more, exactly what we want going into that more ground level. I think with the things that the MCU is setting up, that's it's perfect. I understand why Sony wants it to be multiversal because of, whatever the heck they're doing with all of their films and trying to tie that into Tom. But I mean, it doesn't work, and you can do Spider-Man in a multiversal way in Secret Wars. He can be in crossover stuff that is multiversal. I just think that what we've set up so far, with Far From Home, with No Way Home. There we go. I always mess them up. I
Back
always
at
do.
it again.
I know. What we set up in No Way Home, really, I think a lot of people are excited about. And I think it would be really jarring then to have him go multiversal again when we are kind of expecting him to be a little bit more New York based and dealing with stuff like that. And now that New York is going to be once again kind of a center of really interesting storytelling, because we did take a break from New York for a little bit, why wouldn't we have him in those types of storylines versus forcing him into something that really just doesn't really fit?
Well, as we've already said, I agree with that entire statement. I would actually argue, I mean, listen, I understand Sony's off trying to build whatever they're trying to build, but I would actually kind of argue as soon as I saw it, it's a cash grab. No Way Home did an amazing job in the box office. You can't ignore that. I mean, it's one of the highest grossing movies since what, Endgame? So, I mean, I understand wanting to, and as an Andrew Garfield girly, like, listen, would I love to see him back? Of course. Toby, of course. I understand the want for that, but there's not a need. And I think that's what the difference here is there isn't a need to do it unless it's a worthwhile story. And right now, I think No Way Home told a story that the fans wanted, and we're ready to move forward. If you want to make a third Amazing Spider-Man or a fourth Tobey Maguire, go ahead. In your universe, go ahead. And the fans will come out, but let the MCU handle Tom the way they want to handle Tom.
Yeah, and I think, the last thing to be said, and you kind of touched on this, is there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And so, like, No Way Home was that perfect level of, we got all the nostalgia, we got all the characters, we got the interactions we were looking for, the meme references that we all wanted. It was perfectly balanced in that way. And if you do any more, it's just like diminishing returns. It's not going to be as special. It's not going to be as fun because we've already seen it. So let's
Oh,
stop
for
just like
sure.
trying to rinse and repeat and do something creative and fun with the character in a different way, because honestly, I think if we even did it again, I don't think it would do as well. It was fun
I
the first
totally
time, you know?
Oh, I totally agree. I think that's exactly my thought processes. It was great. It would be like doing Infinity War and Endgame again. We've done it. It was great, but we've done it. We're good. But anyway, guys, that has been this week's Sister Scoop. Make sure you guys come back next week for more Marvel news.